This module is just for you umpires. We don't get to have in-person conversations with every umpire anymore, so consider this as close to a personal pep talk as we can give you. One of the reasons that our new rulebook is longer than the old is that there are about 5 pages of information dedicated to the skills and responsibilities of an umpire, and how to be a better umpire. It is highly recommended that you read these pages, as even our most seasoned umpires will learn something from them. In short, you are an agent of the league, enforcing its rules, and making sure all involved are playing fairly and with good sportsmanship. This is a very important role, and the reason you are the only people involved in the league who are getting paid for their service. Your whistle and your signaling are never as loud or demonstrative as you think they are. You must blow your whistle loudly, and make your signals clearly. It's especially important to be clear with your signals when you are not blowing the whistle, like when you are holding for advantage, so that you don't get half of the spectators telling you what call they think you just missed. The point is, as shown here at the bottom of the slide, the more decisiveness, assertiveness, and professionalism you show, the easier your job will be at our games. You don't have much control over who you get assigned with, but we'd like to take a moment to make sure you're aware of some of the instructions that have been given to the town directors that are assigning you. For most of these items, we know that sometimes they're unavoidable. But if you're seeing a trend, you need to say something. If you aren't comfortable talking to your director, email the league. You should not be asked to umpire a game without a partner. It is a recipe for an awful afternoon. You can't possibly cover enough of the field to see what you need to see, and that will only lead to loud coaches, louder parents, and a terrible experience. All inexperienced umpires should be paired with a more experienced partner. There is a lot to learn about not just applying the rules, but also about managing a game, and it is important to learn from a partner who's done this longer than you. If you are in 8th grade or younger, you may not, under any circumstances, umpire a game alone. This is the only one that doesn't qualify for any except in an emergency exceptions. Respectfully, while you are doing the best you can, it is beyond unfair to throw 12 and 13-year-olds to the wolves like that. If you are in 8th grade or younger, you need to be paired with an umpire with experience, preferably at least a junior in high school. There will be many adults acting like children throughout the season, and it is hard enough for an experienced upperclassman to manage things when they do. You will need the support of that experience. A good umpire is more than just someone who knows the rules. In fact, that's the easy part. Umpires need to develop an understanding of how to apply the rules, and when, as well as a level of confidence that allows them to navigate difficult situations and difficult people. This takes time, and we're talking years, not weeks, to develop. Umpire positioning is another area where we need to improve, and if we make even a small improvement here, your lines of sight will open up, you will be in a better spot to see what you need to, and you will have less confusion with your partner over who should make what calls. We're pretty much just going to read this slide together. Each umpire should cover about 2/3 of the field, and should maintain a lead and a trail relationship between them. The lead umpire must always be ahead of the play, as it is going to her right. Stay along the sidelines in the midfield. As play enters the circle, you may curl in as well. It is important to maintain a position where you can see the ball, and when necessary, the goal line. The lead umpire will make the majority of the calls affecting or around the ball carrier. The trail umpire should resist the urge to get too close to the play. You have a different role. You are looking for positioning and off-ball fouls, and preparing to become the lead umpire when the ball changes direction. Good positioning improves visibility and solves most confusion over who should make what calls. When both umpires are flat to each other, it can be confusing as to who should be blowing the whistle. Inexperienced umpires tend to defer to their more experienced partner and not make any calls for herself. Incorrect positioning will also tire you out over the course of a game, leading to worse positioning, worse visibility, and an increased risk of negative feedback from coaches and/or spectators. This next slide demonstrates the paths you should follow during most of the game. Take note that you don't actually have to cover a lot of ground. You don't need to zigzag from sideline to sideline. Stay on your sidelines until the ball is in the circle, then start curling in. Eventually you should be on the end line, or even just past it, to be able to clearly see if a shot scores a goal, or any fouls in front of the goal. The trailing partner should not be up there with the lead. She should be about 1/3 of the field back. You've probably heard this as a player, but pretend there's a string between you, and if you get too close, it'll hit the ground. Keep the string tight by maintaining a good distance apart. When you make your signals, show confidence and authority. If you look like you're questioning yourself, you risk having the crowd questioning you the rest of the way. You're allowed to be wrong. Just don't let anyone know you made a mistake. Take a minute to review these signals. These slides will also be available on the website if you want to print a copy for yourself.
Communication is achieved by both words and actions. If you are both in the same circle during a play, you will confuse each other about who should make what call. Talk to each other as often as possible to make sure you're both on the same page. If one of you notices bad behavior or something about how the game is going, make sure your partner knows so they can support you with whatever happens next. If you have a behavioral issue to bring to a coach, the quarter or halftime break is an ideal time. If the behavioral situation is serious enough, you have the authority to stop the game, to discuss it immediately. Coaches can be carded for the conduct of their spectators, but you have to give them a reasonable warning or two first, so they have a chance to address the problem. But if it comes to it, telling a sideline that you are going to card their team if they don't settle down is a very powerful tool. Speaking of communication, most umpires at higher levels use headsets and radios. Why not you? If radios aren't available, and they rarely will be, you may use your cell phones and be on a call with your partner throughout the game, but you must use a headset or earbud with a microphone. You cannot be holding your phone up to your ear or on speaker. Your phone also must be secured in a pocket, armband, or belt clip. It cannot be in your hand. Make sure your earbuds are not a distraction by not staying in your ear. A headset or something that hooks over the ear is preferred and generally inexpensive. Your town may even buy a few for you guys to have available at home games, if you ask them. We shouldn't have to, but we'll mention just in case, that if you are using your phone during a game, it is to communicate with your partner, not to listen to music or anything else. The use of phones or radios also provides an opportunity for in-game feedback from someone who can help train you, provided the third party is identified to both coaches prior to the game, not actively involved in the game, so definitely not a participating coach, and not actively influencing or making calls. The role is to provide feedback, not take the umpire's place. The ideal person would be your town's director or umpire coordinator. Maybe even your humble league director, should he be at your game this season. While part of it is about feedback, sometimes it's nice to hear a voice in your ear, telling you that you just made a good call. It is about building confidence, after all. Our last slide addresses an error many umpiring pairs make, though their intentions are good when they do it. It's about whether you and your partner should switch sidelines during a game or not. The reason to switch is a good one, so that neither of you have to hear the same voices from the same sidelines all game. But it can be tricky. You really have two options. You can either switch every quarter, or not switch at all. Remember that the teams switch direction at the half. If you and your partner switch only at halftime, then you will have the same offense-defense matchups the entire game. This may lead to a perception of unbalanced calls. When you don't switch at all, it works because the teams switch around you. You will see different matchups in the first half than the second. However, one of you will be on the parent sideline and the other will be on the bench sideline for the entire game, and you may want to avoid that circumstance. If your goal is to swap sidelines so you can even out the noise, then changing quarterly is your better bet. One of you will have the red offense against blue defense for quarters 1 and 4. The other umpire will be the lead for that matchup in quarters 2 and 3. And finally, our closing words to you. You are in more control than you think. Just like when you are playing, preparation breeds confidence, and confidence breeds success. When you're confident in yourself, it's easier to tune out the noise around you, and there will be noise. Remember that you know more about this game than most of the people trying to make the calls for you. You just need to prove it by being knowledgeable, confident, and assertive. Good luck out there this season, and if you need anything at all, please reach out to the league email address at any time.